Poltava region, Ukraine, 1:47 a.m., October 16, 2025. Russia launched 40 missiles at Ukraine's gas facilities overnight. But what happened next shocked Moscow more than the attack itself. And within hours, Ukraine didn't just survive, they struck back. This is the story of how one night of explosions turned energy into a new kind of weapon, and how Ukraine refused to freeze under pressure. 1:45 a.m., the strike that lit the sky. It started with a thunder that wasn't from the weather. Around 1:45 a.m., Russia launched a massive missile and drone assault on Ukraine's eastern gas fields. Fireballs erupted near Kharkiv, Poltava, and Dnipropetrovsk, areas that power millions of homes. According to Ukraine's state gas company, Naftogaz, the attack was one of the biggest on its energy infrastructure since the war began. More than 40 missiles and drones targeted compressor stations, storage tanks, and pipeline junctions. By 2 a.m., one of the main gas hubs in Kharkiv was engulfed in flames. Footage posted on Telegram showed shockwaves breaking windows from kilometers away. Emergency crews rushed in, but the situation was already critical. Pressure across the national grid began to collapse. Officials estimated that over 30% of gas flow in the region was disrupted within minutes. And for a country that relies on those pipelines to heat homes in winter, every second mattered. Russia's winter strategy. The timing wasn't random. The temperature had just dropped below freezing in eastern Ukraine, and that's when Russia struck. Military analysts say the goal wasn't just destruction, it was psychological warfare. When you hit the energy grid, you don't just knock out heat, you attack hope. In the words of one Kyiv official, they're trying to make winter our enemy. But we've been through worse. Since early October, Russia has repeatedly targeted Ukraine's energy backbone, gas sites, power plants, and oil depots, in what experts call an energy strangulation campaign. It's cheaper than a ground assault, but it hurts civilians more. The cost of a single caliber cruise missile is roughly $1.2 million. Russia fired at least 40 that night. That's nearly $50 million spent in just one attack, a price Moscow seems willing to pay to keep Ukraine cold. The first response. But even in the chaos, Ukraine's engineers were already fighting back, not with weapons, but with wrenches and code. At 3:10 a.m., technicians began rerouting gas from underground reserves in the west. Within 2 hours, they'd restored partial flow to thousands of homes. Drones were still buzzing overhead, but the system didn't collapse. A Naftogaz spokesperson later said, "We lost infrastructure, not control. The difference matters." The attack was meant to cripple Ukraine's energy. Instead, it exposed just how resilient that network and its people had become. But what happened next would take this energy war to a whole new level. And this time, Russia would be the one left scrambling to recover. 6 a.m. Ukraine hits back. By dawn, the smoke over Kharkiv still hung thick in the sky. Crews were battling fires, rerouting gas, and patching broken pipelines. But behind the chaos, a plan was already in motion. At exactly 6 a.m., explosions rocked Russia's Belgorod and Kursk regions. Ukrainian long-range drones struck two key energy depots, facilities that stored jet fuel and refined oil for Russian troops near the border. The attacks were surgical, not symbolic. Video footage from Belgorod showed flames shooting hundreds of feet into the air. Local residents described the explosions as louder than anything since the war began. Russian emergency services scrambled to contain the fires, but it was too late. Fuel lines ruptured, spreading the blaze across several hectares. For the first time, Russia's own energy network was feeling the same pain it had tried to inflict on Ukraine. The numbers that shocked Moscow. Analysts estimated that in a single night, Ukraine destroyed more than $70 million worth of Russian fuel and equipment. The cost of their strike? Barely $2 million, a fraction of what Russia had spent the previous night on missiles. That's the math of modern warfare. Low-cost precision versus outdated aggression. Each Ukrainian drone carried a payload of just 20 kilograms of explosives, guided by GPS and AI-assisted targeting. They didn't need to fly fast. They just needed to fly smart. And they did. By mid-morning, 3 major Russian refueling depots were offline. The Russian Defense Ministry issued a vague statement blaming technical malfunctions, but the video's flooding telegram told the real story. This was retaliation, and it hit where it hurt. The strategy behind the strike. Ukraine's goal wasn't revenge, it was deterrence. For weeks, Russia had been hammering Ukraine's gas fields to freeze the population into submission. But by striking Russian refineries and fuel lines, Ukraine sent a message. You hit our energy, we'll hit yours. A Ukrainian military advisor described it bluntly. They want to make us cold. We'll make them walk, because without fuel, Russia's tanks can't move, its planes can't fly, and its war machine grinds to a halt. Psychological warfare. Beyond the destruction, Ukraine's counterstrike shattered something more important: Russia's illusion of control. For months, Russian citizens had watched the war from a distance. But now, they were seeing fireballs on their own horizon, hearing sirens that once only blared in Kyiv. This was the mirror effect. The war had come home. Social media in Russia erupted overnight. Hashtags like #Belgorod burns and #EnergyForEnergy began trending before state censors could remove them. One viral post read, "Maybe now they'll understand what it feels like when your lights go out." 10 a.m. Moscow's denial, Kyiv's calm. By mid-morning, the damage was undeniable. Satellite photos showed plumes of black smoke still rising from Belgorod and Kursk, 2 of Russia's largest border energy hubs. But Moscow's official response was silence, followed by denial. State media called the explosions isolated industrial accidents. Local governors ordered evacuations but were banned from mentioning the word drone. Meanwhile, Ukraine made no official comment. The silence was intentional. A senior Ukrainian defense official told Reuters off-record, "We don't need to brag. Every explosion speaks for itself." While Russia scrambled to cover up its losses, Kyiv focused on stabilization. By noon, power and gas had been restored to over 90% of affected households. Engineers, covered in soot and exhaustion, posed for photos beside repaired pipelines. The message was simple. You can't freeze a country that refuses to stop moving. The cost of energy warfare. The numbers from the 2-night exchange stunned analysts worldwide. $50 to $60 million. Estimated value of Russian missiles and drones used in the attack. $70 million plus estimated damage to Russian fuel and refinery infrastructure. $2 million estimated total cost of Ukraine's drone counterstrike. The math was brutal. Russia's high-cost missiles couldn't buy a victory. Ukraine's low-cost drones couldn't be stopped. This is the new face of modern warfare: asymmetric, data-driven, and economic. You don't just destroy buildings, you drain budgets, morale, and political will. A European defense analyst summed it up best. Russia fought an energy war with Cold War tools. Ukraine fought it with modern engineering and math. Global shockwaves. In Europe, natural gas prices spiked briefly by 6% on news of the attacks before stabilizing after IAEA confirmation that no civilian energy exports were threatened. The European Commission called the assault on Ukraine's gas fields a blatant act of energy terrorism. Meanwhile, Washington quietly greenlit another $500 million package of air defense and energy infrastructure aid for Kyiv. Even Japan and South Korea issued statements condemning the attacks, a rare show of Asian solidarity for Ukraine. But the most telling reaction came from inside Russia. Videos of fireballs over Belgorod flooded Telegram faster than censors could delete them. Panic spread among local residents who had once believed the war was distant. For the first time, ordinary Russians realized the war was now burning on both sides of the border. The message: behind the flames. That night, President Volodymyr Zelensky gave a short but powerful address. "They tried to make us shiver," he said. "Instead, we made them sweat." It wasn't just a victory of defense, it was a victory of endurance. Ukraine proved it could absorb a blow, adapt overnight, and strike back faster than Russia could respond. Russia tried to use winter as a weapon, but Ukraine turned the cold into fire. The gas war wasn't about pipelines or power grids. It was about willpower. And when that war ended, one truth became clear: resilience burns brighter than fuel. But as both sides prepare for another winter, the question remains: if energy is now the new front line, what happens when the next blackout hits? Hit like, tap subscribe, and tell us in the comments, did Ukraine just prove that brains can beat billions?